Well, welcome back. You caught me in the middle of tearing down my engine compartment. I got one header off. We'll be working on getting the other one off pretty damn soon to get close to the ignition system as a whole. Mail finally came through, gave me all the parts that I needed so I can give HADEZ its due physical for the year 2021 to shove my whole arm up its asshole to give the new parts that it deserves. Because of that, we got an alternator, we got power steering pump, remanufactured Q-Jet, 795 CFM. We got spark plug sets, boots, wires, insulator, socks, pipe wrap, the whole fucking 9 yards. And for Christ's sakes, we even got a distributor. And you can believe the reason why. Because I didn't know it at the time, so stupid me. But hey, better late than never, so stick around. Things are about to get interesting on it. Real fucking interesting. This all has to be replaced. 2 bolts are left to hold on those headers, so it won't be much to take that off. I couldn't really tell you the story on them spark plugs. They could have been factory to the motor. I don't remember putting them in. I have no knowledge of those damn things, so we're going to take them out and inspect them to figure out what this motor's thinking. Insulated spark plug wire set, custom made to length. Can resist up to about 1200 degrees. It's made out of that pipe wrap material that you can use on headers. I even got more of it for the headers, 50 feet of it. We're wrapping the son of a bitch up to the midpoint. You know, not up to the headers, but, you know, to where it's flush with the hood. Anything to keep the heat down. We're gonna get that damn header off with a 9/16 wrench. We're gonna get this thing out of the way. Shouldn't take much. There we go. Look at that. You know, it just dawned on me. I'm gonna need header gaskets. You know, it kind of needs it. It fell on the ground. I'm sure they're shot. That's one part I didn't think about ordering is the header gaskets, but that can come later. I'm sure that some places already have it on the shelf. We're gonna start working on the spark plugs. Take out all 8 of them and inspect them and see what the fuck they tell us. Spark plug time. You know, I whipped out all 8 of mine. They look fine. Nothing to lose sleep over. For the most part, they look good enough to me. Some could be reused even, which is the good news. But you can get further into detail in spark plugs. You know how to look at them. There's certain details they give off that'll show you or explain to you how your motor runs on the inside. And I'm going to show you a few things that I know about spark plugs. I'm not going to say I'm an expert or like invented the damn things, but I'll tell you what I know about them at least. One thing, this is my spark plug, not for the one for the car. I even made some notes about it because it can get very technical. Without this, I'd be babbling like an autistic kid in a spelling bee contest. We're going to talk about heat range. They all come with their own specific heat ranges, spark plugs. You know, they're all different like people. They're all different in their own right. But heat range in the Cadillac world, what I'm talking about, what I know about, range between 4 and 5. Lower the number, the hotter it is. Lower the number, the hotter it is. The higher the number, the colder it is. 68 through 70 would be a 4, and 71 and up would be a 5. Considering HADEZ is rocking a 71 472, a first-year low compression engine, it would need a 5. You want gap. Gap varies between HEI and points, and high compression, low compression. But you've got a high compression motor, you need a specific spark plug for high compression. There's that. Gap varies, like I said, between HEI and points. It was points from 68 through 73. GM introduced HEI in 74 and up, so until they made fuel injection, that's a whole nother argument altogether. But it's 0.30 if you're a gap for points, and you want it, when it's got HEI, it's 0.60. You have a wider gap. Now, as for me personally, I'm going in the middle, 0.45. That's for my taste. If you're gonna go by the book, 0.30 for your older caddies, and 0.60 for your HEI and newer caddies. 425s, 500, late model 500s, 368s in the 80s, that type of shit. Always gap your plugs. Sometimes in shipping and handling, they can land like that, and they'll be closed. You won't even notice if you just take them at face value and screw them in. You might be getting a lot of misfires that way. Look out for that. Heat range. Gotta get close for this one. Now, there'll be some discoloration on the top part here. If it's in the middle, that's a good sign. If it's too forward, it's cold. Your spark plug's running cold. If it's too far backwards, it's running hot. So what the fuck's the difference between hot and cold? What does that even mean? To tell you the truth, when you got a spark plug that's running too hot, it acts like a glow plug you'd see in a diesel. It's white hot, like literally fucking white hot, like a torch. Piston goes up and down, up and down, up and down, doing its thing. When this thing's getting too hot and it's just staying hot, that air fuel mixture is going to pre-ignition, pre-ignite or detonate right before the piston's ready, and it gets punched in the face, and you can damage that way. Your motor can run hot, like overheat. You'll hear that knocking, pinging noise. This can eventually turn into a hole or a crater in your damn piston, and that's never good. That's what happens to run too hot, or too far advanced even. So know your timing as well. What about running too cold? Slightly better than running too hot, lesser of two evils. If I had to pick one versus the other, I'd run a spark plug too cold. A motor will last longer, in my opinion, than running too hot. When you run a colder plug, it doesn't burn up everything as it should, so shit accumulates like frost in a freezer. Excess carbon buildup, that type of shit, takes up space in your cylinders, collects on the face of your piston, and just takes up space, making your combustion chamber smaller, and your compression just goes way up. And it'll act like a diesel, because diesels rely on compression to ignite their air fuel mixture. There's no spark plugs, it's just glow plugs, but that just gets them started in the beginning. And then they get so hot, you know, from air fuel mixture getting so fucking hot and the pressure involved, it just ignites that way. But when you got excess carbon buildup, taking all that space, reduces the size of your your combustion chamber, heat builds up, the carbon that's laying around inside there gets white hot, and that just fucking gets so fucking hot in its own right, it does a job of a spark plug and just ignites the air fuel mixture prematurely, pre-ignition and detonation that way. You can fix that by dumping a little water down your carburetor while it's running. Just sprinkle it in there, don't dump it in there by the gallon, and they'll flashed steam it, and they'll just blast the carbon out. Old school mechanics will know that trick. I'm not gonna go into detail about that, but that's just one method of cleaning it out. But that takes time, not like 5 fucking minutes. I believe a car lasts longer running on colder plugs and hotter, overly hot plugs that way. I mean, you tell me, if you got detonation and pinging and the motor and the pistons taking shots like Rocky Balboa right to the face, between that or just carbon buildup, one side or the other, I think the colder plugs is going to have a longer lifespan if you had to choose. Instead of becoming a dumbass debate. You know, they both suck dick either way, but if you had to choose a colder plug over hot, or go with a colder. NGK, it's another brand next to AC Delco. Stick with AC Delco. NGK is a good brand, but there's counterfeits and they can look pretty damn convincing, so better be safe than sorry. Stick with your AC Delcos. Because you could buy NGK with good intentions, not knowing, hey, it's a counterfeit. You put in your motor, do your thing, and you turn it on, and it can wreak all sorts of havoc. Now that I know that, I don't buy NGKs. I won't ever, just because there's fakes in the market. Never heard any fakes about AC Delco. Maybe there is, but I have not come across any, so I'll stick with these. And plus, they came factory that way, so you'll win either way. Another thing to look out for is the threads. Make sure they're not too clean. If they're too clean, then you got a head gasket leak. can see what happens is you've got a head gasket leak, coolant's getting into the combustion chamber, and steam cleaning everything. But then again, you'd probably know you got a head gasket leak before you even look at the spark plugs, just with other things it'll do. Just look at the movie Uncle Buck. You would have a line of blue smoke coming out the rear of your tailpipe from a head gasket leak. Just taking out the spark plugs and inspect just further cements the possibility of that. You know, it ain't the only symptom of a head gasket leak aside from clean spark plugs. You see other shit too, but that's just one thing to look out for is look how clean your threads are. If they're a little bit oily, dirty, and sooty, that's not too bad. But if it's too clean, like brand new clean, I'd be concerned, and you should be concerned. So now you know a tidbit of some things about spark plugs. Entailed what I know about them, at least to you guys. It's not rocket science, you just gotta know how to look at them at least. Then you get some knowledge of how your motor runs. Mine, for the most part, are fine at least. I may keep one or two because some of them are in good enough condition where you can actually humor the idea of reusing them. Some may do that and just chuck the rest. But I got other stuff to do and I can't lay on the whole video about spark plugs in general, so HADEZ is gonna get hit back on the road and it's gonna eat the asphalt one more time. Mark my word. We're gonna do that right now. So back to work. So what the hell was it you were bitching about distributors earlier? Well, here, let me tell you. This is one of us Cadillac 500 motor, a 76 Cadillac, appropriate for my motor, 472 and 500s. What it was in there is a 425 distributor, the stock motor. You have to understand this motor came out of originally a 71 sedan DeVille, 472. This is a 425 motor originally for this car, which is a 77 Cadillac Fleetwood. And 77 and up, they didn't have 500s and 472s, it was all 425s. To make this swap work, you know, Cadillac big blocks are like Chevy small blocks. You can compare 327, 350, 400, you know, parts interchange, same as a 472, 500, 425s. So we made the swap work by reusing some of the stock parts off the 425, which the car came with originally. The oil pickup tube, the oil pan, and the distributor. Because a 472 was a 71, which is points, and I didn't want to deal with points. To convert to HEI, we just reuse the distributor. Unbeknownst to us, that's the wrong distributor. It'll work, but not as good as it should, because it's 77 and up. The vacuum advance had its restrictions due to emission reasons. I can't get too technical about it. It can easily get to that point, you know, I'll explain the voodoo of it, but point is, it robbed a lot of performance out of this motor, anywhere between 30 to 50 horses. God knows how much torque. And I did a lot of violent shit with this fucking car with the wrong distributor. God knows what I'm capable of with the right one, which you're going to find out soon enough. Until I rebuild the motor, I want to get as most I can out of the stock engine. And this is a good start. It's equivalent to taking an Olds 455 from 1971 and you dropped in a 307 Olds distributor. Yeah, it's HEI and it runs, but it's not going to run as good as it should. And I don't know at the time, so lesson learned. You live and you learn, so we're going to drop this in now. Distributor swaps are relatively straightforward. What you have to understand is how it's positioned in the motor. Copy that. Do what you got to do. Take pictures, point arrows. Do what you got to do, because you mess it up, the timing's off. You have to go back to cylinder number 1, top dead center, you know, the whole fucking 9 yards. So I want to do it right the first time. Now we're going to get the cap off, see where that's sitting at. Already got all the screws undone. Alright, that explains where it's sitting. Go in that direction. So I'm going to basically create some type of marker so it's pretty obvious, so I know for reference what position this is sitting in currently. You're going to want a 1/2 inch socket and do it from the motor. We'll take it out nice and easy. And keep any debris away from the hole so it doesn't fall in the motor. Come on. Now sometimes they have an O-ring at the base, so check for that.
There, it took a little finesse, but, you know, eventually just dropped in. So now that is in its place, we can lock it down and, you know, put everything back together. You know, spark plugs and everything, you know, zip it up a little bit. Right there, that notch right there on the pulley, that's the factory timing mark. That's the factory timing mark. That groove cut in there is back when they did the motor swap. So we're gonna go for that timing mark, not that one. That's most likely what they did. They basically just popped off the spark plug on cylinder number 1, found top dead center, and then retimed it with a new mark. Because they probably just didn't look at the position of the original distributor at first. Anywho, what's done is done. Well, that took a while. It was daunting. And I got them wrapped up. Didn't use up the whole roll, so any bare spots I can recover. I got enough for that. But I gotta head to the auto parts store to get some exhaust manifold header gaskets. So I'm gonna go pick those up and bolt them back on. So what did we get done so far? I got the headers put back on. They're wrapped. They got new exhaust gaskets. Spark plugs are put in as well. Spark plug wires all complete. Distributors put in. I didn't fully connect them on top of the distributor, not just yet, just because I got boot socks that haven't yet come in the mail. But when they do, I'll do this one by one and slide them down to the base where the boot is onto the head. Just, you know, further protection.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Solid link. Very little gap, if any. Just needs the return spring. I can get one. O'Reilly's has them for like a few bucks. Oh yeah, the kickdown switch, I cleaned that off. It was pretty greasy, so clean that. What I gotta do with these unions, these connectors, because the engine's gonna run and it's gonna vibrate. This may, you know, go back or forward, and this could separate. I'm either just gonna back this out, put some JB weld under the threads, or a thread locker, or just put a nut on each side. Either way, this thing is just set. Do that for both sides. Doesn't bunch up. This will be more smooth once I get a return spring on. So back to the auto parts store for 100,000th fucking time. Either way, we're making progress.
Well, now we're at the part of getting HADEZ up and running. He's got the tires. It's on the earth. Got the engine bay all complete for the most part. Just put gas in the tank. Now I'm going to get ready to wire up a tachometer because I'm going to start dialing this thing in pretty soon. I don't even care about the fucking color. It's just wire to wire, I mean. Basket of wires that I got here is enough to supply me. Never fails. Always keep your wires from previous projects. They will pay off in the future. So I'm going to get this thing dialed in before it leaves the garage. So hanging a tachometer close on hand will help. And I'll show you guys how to dial in a Q-jet and Vance and retard the damn thing if it needs it. So as this is being a revival, a little bit of how-to is thrown it with as well. But I got the Q-jet. It's a 795 CFM Rochester Quadrajet. Made for this motor, this breed of motor, the Cadillac big blocks. I bottomed out the two main mixture screws all the way to the right side, clockwise. Bottomed them out, then turned it 3 turns counterclockwise just to get in the middle. A good balance in the middle to start from. And I got the distributor, as you've seen, got centered. It's, you know, it matched the old position as the last distributor. Maybe a little too advanced, maybe a little too retarded, but hopefully I got both of them centered enough where this thing will start on its own and I can just, you know, play some voodoo magic with it to get it all straightened out. I got a battery on the ground there. Like I said, there's gas in the tank. Really, it's just now wiring up the tachometer. Shouldn't take too long. Get back to you guys in a minute. This is a matter of cutting and crimping. And these tools are fucking awesome. Also, when you time your motor, look at your timing mark. If it's greasy, obviously I gotta clean it. Sometimes the numbers are a little harder to read. So what you do is you paint over them with some white paint. Just go over the lettering. It looks like a mess right now. Take a little cloth. You highlighted the letters that way, that's what you do. Wipe off the excess. There you go. Get you closer in there. That's what a little white paint can do for you. So you got before and after, 12, 8, 4, 0. Now when it comes to tuning a Q-jet, it's relatively easy. It's not rocket science. Good carbs, but they do kind of hide the adjustment screws in the worst place. Way at the bottom on this side. And you got the other one right there, right on the bottom. Kind of hard to see when everything's all hooked up. But ideally, what you do is you want to bottom these out all the way clockwise for both sides. You know, bottom it out till it just can't turn no more. I think that's it for this side. Yep. Now, I'm going to do one screw to represent for both. So let's say both of them are bottomed out like this. Now you back it off about, I recommend 3 full turns. Then you do the other side. That gets you right in the middle to start from. This is your idle mixture screw right here. This is what you use to control your idle. You go in to make it rev faster, you go back out counterclockwise to make it rev lower. That's relatively easy. But this thing right here, your fast idle screw, this is what you deal with while your car is cold. Like that screw, and the other one, that's what you can do when the motor's warmed up. But this one, you do this right away in the morning. That's how you give it the juice and your car fires off, but it revs to the moon. You go to this screw and you back it off about like a turn and a half until you get at the desired RPMs, and you leave it. Or if it's too low when you start up cold, you go the other direction and it just bumps up the RPMs. That's what this side's for. Really nothing to say for the back side. Although this connects to your transmission, your brake booster. I'm going to get this one carburetor built as a spare to hold on to. But ideally, that's just about the gist of it. You either get a bendable tool like this that goes right over it, or you just take a butter knife and you cut a notch into it. Either way works. That's what we'll be applying to this. Since I already adjusted that carb in the middle to start from, hopefully it just fires right off. And from there we'll start adjusting. Now everything's all hooked up. It's ready to rock. It's time to bring HADEZ back to life once more for this year and own the road like it should. And from there, we'll get this thing dialed in. Battery connection. All right, we'll try it one more time. Something went tat, tat, tat. Could be the millions of tools I left around the engine bay. Take two. I knew it was going to be like this. You know, you let a car sit for so long, you nickel and dime it like this, it's going to fight you for a little while, but we will prevail. Come on, you bastard. Uh-oh, he's coming back. It would do that, wouldn't it? Oh well. Take three. It runs, but you know, falls flat on its face. Like I said, it needs adjustments. I just slapped everything together, but we're getting there. The fact that it runs is a, you know, proof we're going in the right direction. Come on, you. Well, I'm sure the microphone is just going crazy. Demo fucking headers. He runs, he lives. Fucking A, my ears are ringing. But I got them running as good as I fucking can. Played a little bit of distributor, but I found the happy medium. Basically, just playing around with the distributor, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, OCDing in it, all while looking at the vacuum gauge. Playing with the mixer screws on the bottom, did that a few times. Just rechecking everything 3 or 4 times just to find the happy medium. You know, the consistent even I'm looking for. So I'd retard it, no, it ran like shit. Advanced it too much, ran like shit. And I basically, you know, stepped it down, up, just by micro moves till I find the happy medium where I could feel and, you know, hear at it running at its absolute best. And I locked it down, you know, set that where it needs to be. Then the idle mixer screws, I ultimately found out that 4 turns on both sides, it's at its happiest. I started originally with 3, but when I did the 4, it sounded like it was going to run no better than that after 4 turns, so I left it at 4. And I adjusted this screw on this side to where it's going to run at 500 RPMs and drive in 1,000 in park. I didn't get this on camera, but the mixer screw on this side, we only do that when the motor's fucking cold. I bottomed it out, and I just backed it out like 2.5 turns, So I may need to play with that a little bit more, but for the most part, this thing runs good as I can fucking make it. And we're gonna find out how this thing handles on the open road right now. That's what I'm talking about. Being the fucking asphalt today. Till next time, I'll catch you guys later.